Hey there friends, what's up? Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel. And today I get to review the 4th studio album from this hard rock band out of Minnesota. That's why I got my Gopher hat on, my Viking shirt on. Perfectly, planned this out. This is our review of Settle Your Sins by Throw the Fight. Before we get started, please follow My Song of the Day, Rock 2008, on social media on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll get the 30-second Song of the Day feature on all 3 of those platforms, and it is a great way to get in the know with some new music, fall in love with new bands, fall in love with bands you used to love, and just grow the community in general. We also will post anytime anything gets released on all those, and on Instagram specifically, we will post our IGT videos, which happen every single Tuesday night. It's behind the scenes look at what's going on here. And every single Wednesday night, we have our Instagram live streams at 9 p.m. Central, where it's an hour-long time. You can come hang out with us and just, have a blast. The last couple of weeks, we've done roast battles on there, and it's been a lot of fun. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel, because not only do you get these album review videos, which come out every single Wednesday night, but you also get other kinds of videos, such as the Kevin Figures Out videos, where I figure out if I like a certain band or not that I'm not that well versed into. You also get these special episodes now that we're coming out with, which are more focused on emerging bands in the scene, and of course the year-end awards and yearly countdown kind of videos. So you always get those. And on this channel, that's where the Chord Progression podcast lives. It is our very own podcast where we are unearthing the underground and are exposing emerging bands in the scene of rock and metal today, so you can get in on them early before everyone else does. You can get bragging rights over your friends. You can watch all the interviews right here on this YouTube channel, or you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Links in the description below, so let's get to the video. A little bit of a background on Throw the Fight. Their 3rd album, Transmissions, came out back in 2016, and to be fair, I really didn't listen to that album. I don't know much about the band up to this point due to the fact that I didn't find out about the band until 2019 and 2020 when I heard their name appear and one of our friends say, hey, we had them on the podcast of their podcast at one point, so, I thought, okay, let's give it a shot. Plus, they're from Minnesota. That's where I went to school, so why not? However, what is different on this album is that James Clark is no longer the vocalist. He and the band parted ways on good terms, and James Clark is now the lead singer of the band Kill the Lights, which was started by former Bullet for My Valentine drummer Michael Moose Thomas. Their new album is coming out on August 21st, 2020, so right after this one's coming out, and vocalist Kade Kastelitz is now the lead singer for Throw the Fight. I did ask them to be on the Chord Progression podcast at one point, and they never got back to me. However, that will not interfere with anything on this album. I'm going to give them a fair shake on this album, so let's get on to it. When it comes to the construction, composition, instrumentation of Settle Your Sins, one thing I've been seeing from Throw the Fight on this one is that their sound is consistently there throughout the whole entire thing, and it's really this mixture of this high energetic hard rock meets pop rock sound. And where this all comes in is when it comes to that high energy, you're going to get a consistently fast pace in a lot of these songs, and the drumming is going to be the catalyst on keeping that pace. The drumming is also the catalyst on what brings up more of that hard rock sound, because when you listen to the drums, they hit a little bit harder, they hit a little bit more on the toms and the floor toms instead of the snare, so you really get this little bit of a harder feel going forward, and it's just a little bit more pronounced to get that hard rock feel. However, where the pop rock comes in is the guitar tune, because the guitar tune is a little bit faster to keep up with that pacing, but it is much lighter compared to something that I'm used to, especially in hard rock. So it has a bit more of this pop punk, pop rock kind of feel to it, and throughout the whole entire album, they really focus in on this sound. A couple of songs that really focus in on this are songs like Watch It Burn, Nightmare, and Paper Wings. Paper Wings especially is a very interesting construction on this one, and why I like this one on the construction side is that it's a reverse build, so it starts out a lot faster, and as it goes to the rest of the verses and the chorus, it kind of slows down through and through. It still keeps that high energy, but it's not as high energy from top to bottom, so instead of going this way, they go that way. Yeah! However, one thing that did stick out to me on this album was that this sound was there every single step of the way, which is okay, but as I went through the album and really dove deep into it, it felt like there was a sameness going through the whole entire album. And what I mean by that is if you take a listen to the album, they really focus in on that hard rock, pop rock with a lot of high energy sound to them. And while I like the fact that they have shown that they can master their sound, when I dove deep into this album, it really started to feel like everything sounded the same after a while, and it kind of got a little bland after about 3 or 4 listens through. They also tried to do some kind of experimentation, but most of the time when they did this, they teased a lot of it, so there's a little bit parts of like experimentation with different influences in there, but then they really reverted back hard to that high energy hard rock, pop rock kind of style. So take a look at a song like Nightmare, where the intro is a lot heavier, but then it goes straight back into that standard throw the fight style. Then you take a look at a song like Heart of Gold, where it's very standard, but the transitions between the verse and the chorus with that pre-chorus, they slow it down so much, it's like, okay, this is interesting, I want to see where they go from here, but it's like they're transitioning to the same thing, so it really doesn't hit me very well. However, on songs like Pain and the titular song Settle Your Sins, what I liked about these was they took that experimentation and really brought in more of a darker tonal influence to their sound. And where this really worked out, why these tracks stood out the most to me, was because they took this darker, heavier tone to it and matched it with their lighter, more energetic pop rock, hard rock mix. And the reason why this worked out so well and they stuck out so much was because of the mixture that is there and how the pacing really works together and everything. These songs are your top songs on this album. Overall, the composition, construction, instrumentation on this album, I would say, is fine. What they do is they really stick hard, again, that hard rock, pop rock with high energy influence. And it really does stand out that they have mastered that sound. It is incredible. However, when I've seen the fact that they have teased some experimentation, but then really went back to what they really know, it just says like, okay, you guys match that sound, but you gotta kind of go a little bit more in that sound. Then on songs like Pain and Settle Your Sins, where they go with more of a darker tone, it really does work because they're able to match the pacing with the darker subject and the darker tone and a little bit of a heavier style with the pacing of their own. That's why it matches out. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of that in the next time, but it shows that maybe, you know, they played a little too safe on this one, just a little bit. Now take a look at the vocal performance from Kade specifically, and taking a look at it, one thing I liked about this was that it really fell in line with that instrumentation, what it was asking for, but I felt like it was much more of a standout point. The reason being is because when I listen to Kade's vocals, he reminds me a lot of that 80s hair metal style, but has a more mature sense to it. So what I mean by that is it's a little bit higher pitch and he's able to keep up with that high energy, much like 80s hair metal style. However, it has more of a mature kind of tone to it, so it really fits better for a more modern sound and more modern audience today. And then when they go with those harder, more darker tones with songs like Pain and Settle Your Sins, Kade's vocals really don't change up that much. And in this instance, I really like the reasoning behind it. And that's because when you hear Kade's higher pitched vocals mixing with those a little bit harder and darker tone instruments, that really stands out in contrast. This is where the contrast really does work, because you get kind of the battling instrumentals with the battling vocals, and both just make the others stand out because they're so different in a way. But again, the pacing is matched perfectly, so they blend so well together. This was well done. On the song Heart of Fire, with the transitions being slower, Kade really brings his vocals down a bit and really kind of mellows them out a little bit and keeps them a bit more downtrodden. And why I really like that is because, again, it shows the willingness to experiment. It shows that whatever tone you need, especially with a slower tone, Kade can also hit that as well. The only real problem I have with Kade's vocals on this is, again, it's very sameness and oversaturation of it. However, we did see that with Pain and Settle Your Sins, when they go with a darker tone overall, his vocals can really stand out. So I don't think this is necessarily a problem with his vocals. I think this is just a problem of the construction overall of the songs and how they kind of just blend all together and kind of make the vocals blend all together at the same time. Overall, I really like Kade's vocals on this album, and I really like what he brings to the band, because that higher pitch, high energy sound really shows that he can match with the pacing that Throw the Fight really does work with. However, I also like the fact that his vocal sound can also mix in with different experimentation sounds that they did try a little bit on this album, and shows that the band can try many different things to match their sound with other influences through pacing, and that Kade's vocals are still going to be able to carry it forward. So I think they did a great job with bringing Kade on, and this proves it. Taking a look at the themes of the album and how the stylings really work out, the themes of the album really take a look at looking at your inner self and really taking a look at what's going on in your life and looking at your past and accepting that who you are is who you are and not letting past decisions define you. And why I kind of like that is because the band must have gone through something like this, so this is why they really kind of talk about it. And for a lot of people that are struggling with confidence issues and struggling with self-image issues, especially in today's world, especially for people my age and the younger, because of the fact that social media is such a large presence, everyone's comparing each other, I think this is a good message to really bring that out. A couple examples of songs that really kind of bring this message forward are songs like Paper Wings, where you talk about realizing that you don't think that there are some things that are your strengths that absolutely are. And talking like a song like Home, where even when you're not the most confident in yourself, you always have a place and you always have to need a place where you can go be yourself, recharge your batteries, and recharge that confidence. And then a song like Settle Your Sins, which is all about accepting the past and not letting it define you going forward. Understanding the past, understanding the mistakes you made, but not letting it define what you're going to do and who you are going forward. Overall, how the styles of songs really work out with the themes of the album, I think they work out rather well because you are getting that higher energy feel, you're getting more of that pop rock feel, so it's a little bit easier to get into for a massive audience. And not only that, but when you're talking that high energy, it's going to be a confidence builder as well, and I really do like it. Plus, even with the band going with that more consistent sound through and through, I think it was a good move on this part, especially matching up with the theme, because this is genuinely throw the fight, and if they're putting their heart and soul into this, especially with the meaning of the lyrics and just kind of trying to tell people that, you know, be confident who you are, going with their genuine sound is definitely the way to go, so I think this matched up really well. Alright, time for my overall grade on Settle Your Sins by Throw the Fight, and that is... I'm going to give Settle Your Sins a 6.5 out of 10. So 6.5 out of 10 for Settle Your Sins by Throw the Fight. What I like about this album, one thing is the consistent energy behind it, because every song really had that higher energy feel to it, and that is something I really like because it really kept the songs upbeat and it kept me intrigued going forward every single step of the way, because I really was going to feel downtrodden. I was going to be able to get through this album even if it was more of a double-edged sword kind of thing, which I will talk about in the dislike section with that sameness kind of feel. But that energy being brought is something that's better than consistently no energy being brought, so I do have to applaud them on that. The other thing I like about this album is Kade's vocals, because his use of that more like higher toned, like 80s glam metal style, but more mature sounding, really fit well with the higher energy pop rock, hard rock soundings of Throw the Fight. And even when they kind of mix it up a little bit on songs like Heart on Fire, when he kind of drew it back, especially in the pre-chorus, I thought it was done very well, and I think Kade's vocals really do mix. Plus, when they did show some experimentation, a little bit of harder sound, yeah, Kade's vocals, even using that more higher tone, a little bit more mature higher tone as well, really did stand out in contrast. So I think they made a great decision by bringing Kade on as the vocalist for this outing. And then the song Settle Your Sins, I believe, is the best song on the record because they're able to take a little bit harder and darker tone to the overall sound and mix it with their original sound, and it's done really well because even as the instrumentation brings a little bit harder and darker sound, they're able to transition it well into their lighter overall sound, and that's because the pacing is there and they're able to really match the pacing overall. Plus, Kade's vocals also let that happen because he uses the same vocal style in the darker parts and the lighter parts. So when it's a little bit darker and heavier, yeah, you're going to get that contrast really stand out. And then when it's lighter, you're going to get that Throw the Fight feel. But the contrast there, the mixture is there, and I really like this song. That's why I put it in the like section. Now I have to go to the dislikes part. So what I dislike about this album, and at point, again, the double-edged sword, I have to go with the sameness feel on this album, where a lot of the ways Throw the Fight really stuck with that hard rock, pop rock with a lot of high energy feel to it. And as I went through the album, I will have to say the first couple of times I really wasn't diving deep into it, I did enjoy it, and I did like that they kept the high energy feel to it. And so, you know, it was a little bit easier to get through, and I really didn't feel tired by it. But when I went deep dive into it, this is a problem I found because it just felt like that there could have been so much more there, especially with you know, a little bit more different sounds and a little bit more experimentation, a little bit more different influences, but it just really wasn't that prevalent. So the sameness, not only with the vocals, but with the instrumentation, with the construction of the songs, they really kind of felt a little bit still. However, I do have to applaud them at some point, so it's kind of a double-edged sword as I put in the likes and dislikes section. One thing I didn't like was the guitar distortion, specifically on the song Misery. And why I didn't like that was because it was so blown up in the verses that it really drowned out Kade's vocals. And even though the chorus was really good, what I didn't like about the verse was it just kind of didn't let me get into the song fully because that distortion was just so overbearing that I just couldn't fully immerse myself into a song that could have been really, really good and it could have potentially been one of my favorites, but Settle Your Sins easily took the cake on that one. One other thing I didn't like about this album was that they teased a lot of different experimentation, especially towards the end, where they had parts that were a little bit different with a little bit different influences. and they only were brief, and it's just like, oh, come on, guys. You know, I wanted to see some more of how you could play it up. Take a look at Heart of Gold, where you look at the pre-chorus transition, it's slow up. I'm waiting for something like blasting. Think Madness by Silverstein and how they really change up from the verses to the chorus with that pre-chorus transition. I mean, that's really where it shines, and on this one, with Heart of Gold, it did not. Pain was a song that I really did like. However, one thing I didn't like was if you take a look at the chorus, it kind of matches with the verse as well. And I was hoping to go with a darker tone and maybe more of a little bit slower tone as well to kind of just match the sound of it. Think like a mixture of like, I forgot what it was, but like Moth to Flames, Nowhere to Be Found, especially you kind of have that kind of chorus out in this chorus for Pain specifically. I thought that would have amplified the song completely. And then Watch It Burn, one thing I didn't like was the fact that I felt like they could go with the darker tone, really amplify that singing style that Kade had. They did on Sell Your Sins, they didn't do it here, and I felt like they could have done it on Watch It Burn as well, and it would have really amplified the song outright. Alright, now time for my final thoughts. Settle Your Sins by Thrill the Fight, I do think is a good album. That's why I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I do think that they have absolutely mastered that hard rock, pop rock, high energy sound that they have, and bringing in Kade's vocals for this one specifically really did a good job because he's able to match that tone with a little bit more mature, higher pitched style that, remember, reminds me of 80s glam rock, but more mature, so it really does work out well. I was okay with the fact that they kind of had the construction a little bit the same, but when I dove deep into it, there was a lot of a sameness and blandness feel when I really dove deep. However, it might have been due to the fact that this is Kade's first outing with the band, so I want to see how that would mix in, and it mixed in rather well, actually, beautifully, if I might add. However, when they did go with some experimentation on something like Sell Your Sin and Pain with a little bit more of a darker, harder sound, yeah, I really do think that it worked out incredibly well because Kade's vocals are able to maintain that. However, they tease it too much, especially throughout, and those are the only two songs that really stand out, especially Settle Your Sins. So when I take a look at this album, I'm thinking it's good, but it's not great. However, Thrill the Fight has set themselves up to use their sound and twist it with some other different influences that match their pacing to potentially create something incredibly good. So this could easily be a precursor for something great to come, and I'm excited to see what that happens. But as of right now, again, this album, I say it's good, but it's just not great. And that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. Thrill the Fight, if you're watching, I would love to have you on the Chord Progression podcast to discuss this album in full and really get into it deep with you. Yeah, so if you're watching, let's do it. And then for you guys watching, until next time, this is Kevin from the My Sunday Rock 2008 YouTube channel. And you guys know how I'm going to end this with the hat flip. No, but see ya!